Oman and the Sea is a story that stretches back 5,000 years. It's the tale of an ancient civilization with the sea in their blood. It's the tale of people who built ships of ingenious design, and of navigators who learned how to follow the winds and the stars far to the east and back. It's the story of ancient ports where fortunes were made, trading rare and valuable goods. It's the story of a maritime empire stretching out from Oman. And it's the story of an extraordinary connection with France, as a former naval officer retraces the footsteps of his ancestor on a moving voyage of discovery. Toulon, southern France, home to the French Navy. And to Jean-Pierre Madame, ex-naval officer and a former head of administration at the National Maritime Museum of France. Jean-Pierre has always had a passion for drawing. It's a passion shared by an illustrious ancestor.
I get this from my grandfather and my great-grandfather, and maybe a little from the Admiral too, since there is some shared blood.
An ancestor who is one of the most fascinating characters in French maritime history. Admiral François-Edmond Paris was no ordinary 19th century naval officer.
The Admiral was a very difficult character. He was someone who had a lot of authority. He didn't mince his words. I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, I used to ride a little mule in Tunisia in the Admiral's uniform. The Admiral must have been short, but I was all dressed up with his ceremonial hat and his dress jacket.
Paris fought in the Crimean War, lost an arm in India, and was at the forefront of maritime technology, introducing steam engines and the first armoured battleships to the French Navy. But his greatest legacy is his drawings of indigenous boats from around the world. Among the places he visited, Oman.
Dans le port de Mascate. Voilà.
He drew detailed drawings of some of the sailing boats he saw there. Then common, now exceedingly rare. Jean-Pierre Madame, one of the Admiral's closest living relatives, has been invited to follow the Admiral's footsteps.
I think he would have loved to have come on this voyage.
He will journey to Oman to explore the country's maritime heritage and to see for himself full-size boats constructed from Paris's drawings.
I'm thrilled by the idea of going to see one of these boats for real.
Oman lies 5,000 kilometers away in the southeast corner of the Arabian Peninsula. Jean-Pierre's visit has been made possible by the organizers of an exhibition at the Maritime Museum of France, who would like to celebrate Oman's long relationship with the sea. Modern Oman is in a state of renaissance, 40 years of breathtaking progress while preserving long-standing traditions. With around 3,000 kilometers of coastline, it's no wonder that the sea has shaped its destiny for thousands of years. Jean-Pierre begins his quest in the capital, Muscat, at the Franco-Omani Museum. Paris visited Muscat in 1838 on a diplomatic mission. When he arrived on the frigate L'Artémise, he was already on his third circumnavigation of the globe. All around the world, Paris obsessively drew plans and scenes of every type of vessel that he encountered. Senegal, India, South America, and even Australia. Canoes from Greenland and Chinese junks. His ambitious work resulted in a unique encyclopedia of naval architecture, L'essai sur la construction navale des peuples extra-européens. The essay is the first and most expansive study of traditional craft ever published from direct observation. And although he didn't know it, the sketches and plans he drew in Oman would one day help the country preserve its maritime heritage. Jean-Pierre's pilgrimage retracing his ancestors' journey starts on a Royal Navy of Oman patrol vessel off Muscat. He's looking for the places from which his great-great-uncle might have drawn inspiration. Much has changed about Oman since then, but much remains the same.
There are perhaps a few things that have changed. The angle isn't quite the same, but you can see it's the same landscape. There are no nasty surprises.
It doesn't take long before the coastline takes on a familiar look.
It seems to me that here we're on the spot where the Artemis was, though maybe it was a little closer to the shore.
A little further on, and once again, a match.
It's strange to think he saw the same thing, or very nearly, because a few changes have been made, but I must say, it's rather moving to find myself in the footsteps of my ancestor.
Next stop on his journey, a shipyard at Kantab, just down the coast from Muscat.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Jean-Pierre, madame.
Eric Staples. Pleasure to meet you.
Jean-Pierre is shown around the yard by Eric Staples, director of Oman Maritime. Here, a team of specialist craftsmen build ancient ships of Oman. The rare skills needed for this painstaking work are underpinned by the drawings of Admiral Paris.
Je cherche. Alors je vois effectivement des techniques un peu particulières de bateaux cousus. Ah.
Well, I think we might have something you might be interested in taking a look at here, which might interest you. Will you help me take the covers off?
Allez, on y va. D'accord.
This is the Bud and Said.
Ben Sayed,
Bud and
d'accord.
Said, yes, that's your great-great-uncle, Drew, 170 years ago. So it was basically due to your great-great-uncle we were able to build this boat. And we basically relied on his drawings, his notes, to try and build this boat as authentically as possible, just like it would have been in 1838. And it was basically due to him. We're incredibly grateful because he is, in my opinion, the best source for boats from Oman in this time period in the 19th century. We have other Budden that we've seen in the 20th century, but they're different. They are not completely sewn. This one is only 5 planks, It's completely sewn, no frames. It's very unique. And basically using his drawings, we were able to uncover this. And so you can see here, this gives you an idea. You have the planks, you have one plank here, which is basically the keel plank. And the keel is, each keel has two keels are sewn right in there. Yes. And then we have these two planks, which are basically stitched to each other, and then a gunwale on top. All the pressure, because the wood is basically, wants to press in, it's kept by these through beams here, which as your ancestor drew, are kept together by basically a dowel here, yes, which as you can see to sort of keep it in place, with a very simple beam shelf, almost attached basically, which we have to keep the beams. And he even drew the barasti, basically the date palm cover that we have here, which is still used today actually. So it's really nice to see.
C'est vrai que c'est quand même un peu incroyable de voir.
It's pretty incredible to see a ship drawn by Paris that's rebuilt today. That's strange, really strange. It's superb.
C'est superbe. Vous avez reproduit.
You've reproduced the holes, the sewing, just like the original. It's amazing. I can't believe it.
J'en reviens pas.
In the National Museum, this is the centerpiece. When everyone comes in, they will see this with the sail up.
Ça va être un bel hommage à Paris.
It will be a wonderful tribute to Paris. I must say it's superb. All this, it's beautiful. Really beautiful.
If we could find a boat like this, basically a budden, perhaps, would you be interested in sailing her?
Ah, oui,
Oh, yes. That would interest me greatly. To sail a ship that Paris has drawn, which Paris knew, that would be very interesting. A wonderful experience, a step into the past. That really would be something. But are there still any boats left like this, which are still sailing?
They are hard to find. Yes.
Oui, d'accord. Bon, c'est dommage.
The drawings and plans of Admiral Paris have also been critical to other projects for Oman Maritime, as Jean-Pierre discovers in the yard's model shop.
And this is where we make scaled models for museums. And this is one of three that we have built based on the drawings of the great-great-uncle, Admiral Paris. This is the Baghla, which is basically one of the largest of the native craft here.
And he drew them too?
Yes, yes. And we have a construction plan, and we also have the beautiful sketch as well, two of them sitting in Muscat Harbor, which is, it's wonderful. And we've been using those drawings basically to replicate this vessel.
Buggalas like these would have been used to carry a range of cargoes to India and East Africa, sailing as far as Zanzibar and Sri Lanka. When Admiral Paris made his drawings, Oman's waters were filled with sailing ships of all kinds. From those drawings, the team in the model shop have recreated the ships that helped make Oman a maritime power. The Sanbuk was used to transport goods or passengers throughout the region. It varied in size from a small coastal fishing boat to large cargo or passenger vessels. Its defining characteristics, its up-curved scimitar stem and transom stern. The Garuka, captured in full sail off the coast by Paris, may have been a workhorse carrying goods to and fro, but it was beautifully decorated. The Burden is a distinctively Omani craft with several different types. This model represents the Burden Safar, which was regularly used for regional trade from the Arabian Gulf to as far as East Africa. But Oman's maritime history goes back much, much further than the 19th century when Admiral Paris arrived in Muscat with his sketchbook. In a corner of the yard is a boat that goes back to the very beginnings of Oman's relationship with the sea.
Over here,
Eric shows Jean-Pierre a small-scale reconstruction of a reed boat used off Oman in the Bronze Age.
and this is roughly around 4,300 years old.
OK, so Bronze Age.
The larger versions, 12, 15 meters, actually sailed to India and to Mesopotamia.
These trading voyages from 2500 BC were some of the earliest known and reached as far as both the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia. On board, copper ingots from the mines of Magan, as Oman was known then. That raw material produced the metal goods that would start to change the world.
Crush the reeds, wrap them up in a bundle, and then you make them all together, as you can see, sort of. They have this great shape that comes together, and then you lash them to wooden frames. And eventually, you put matting on the outside as well. And then over that, you put bitumen. It's based on some archaeological evidence that we found here in Oman, in Ras Al Jins, of bitumen fragments, small pieces of bitumen, that have, on one side, they have barnacles. And on the other side, they have imprints of the matting and lashing as well.
Not the most seaworthy of craft, but a huge leap forwards.
Please, right here, amidships,
Yes.
if you want.
Et sur le bois.
Be very careful.
Et sur le bois.
Right, on the wood.
Yes.
Oh, la
There we go. Oh, the sea's rough.
You grab a seat there. Sitting. And then you basically can steer. So you twist like this.
OK.
Tie it with a rope, twist.
D'accord,
Just like
elle
a
est-
canoe.
So it was tied.
Yes, yes, exactly. And then you'd have a very small sail, or you would have people basically up front just paddling.
In the 5 or so years the yard has been operating, it has produced many fine ships using traditional methods and tools, but none as spectacular as Jewel of Muscat. A painstaking recreation of a 9th century Arab trading ship. This is the kind of ship that the legendary Sinbad might have sailed. The Jewel is based on a shipwreck found off Indonesia. The cargo was from China, but Arabic inscriptions suggested a remarkable global trade. It took an international team a year to build her. On the way, they had to rediscover ancient techniques. Like learning how to steam hardwood planks to make them flexible enough to bend and twist into shape. Following the design of a 1,000-year-old wreck created some daunting challenges. Like sewing the planks together using 130,000 meters of coconut fiber. Their work ensured that the secrets of a form of boat building on the verge of dying out were recorded and preserved for future generations. It was a difficult project that sometimes teetered on the edge of disaster. But after a successful launch, an international crew began a 5,000-kilometer voyage from Oman to India and Southeast Asia. Following the ancient monsoon trade route, the crew experimented with the ancient navigation techniques used by their forefathers. And with no engine, they encountered the same hazards that faced sailors 1,000 years ago. Days becalmed in 40-degree heat off the coast of India.
You lose 2 days in same place. Sometimes the wind's coming 6, 7 knots, 8 knots, and sometimes zero.
Crossing the Bay of Bengal, they found themselves at the mercy of the monsoon winds that carried her along at record speeds.
I think we almost touch the gale, almost reach 38 to 40 to 45, so that's force 8. And tremendous waves coming on board.
Worse was to come, a vicious tropical storm with winds touching 100 kilometers an hour. Enough to smash one of her masts. And then there were 21st century hazards, dodging giant cargo ships in the busiest shipping lanes in the world.
I've never ever seen something like that, a traffic of the ships, tugs, small fishing boats, nuts all over the place.
The Jules voyage ended in Singapore. But some ships would have sailed still further east. As long ago as 1981, another Omani ship, the Sohar, set sail, crossing the legendary Seven Seas to China. Like their forefathers, the crew had to catch their food en route. After a journey of 217 days, a sewn boat from Oman had retraced the monsoon trade routes of 2,000 years before, passing by Sumatra and arriving in Canton in China. Jean-Pierre is keen to discover more about how the ancient Arab sailors found their way. So he's come to Haramel to meet Jules' captain, Salah Al-Jabri.
I'm Jean-Pierre Madame.
Bien, how are
Yes.
you? Well, this village is a fisherman village.
Yes.
Very old fisherman village.
Your father was a
My
fisherman.
father, my grandfather, and he's sailor. So all these guys in here, they are fishermen. So a lot of people, they are fishermen here and there.
Jean-Pierre wants to learn about the traditional navigational tools used long before compasses.
Salah, can you show me how to use a camel?
Wow, you know the Kamal?
Yeah.
Very good. So I will go to show you the Kamal, how to use it, and we'll sail together to India, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
We go off.
By using known stars like Polaris, the system was quite accurate for finding latitude, ideal for Indian Ocean crossings from Oman to India or China and back.
In the horizon, that one, we'll touch the horizon. And that one in our mouth. And one knot here, as we see it, and the one in the star. And so we have to do
Okay.
like that. And
Okay.
So we'll let you to try it.
I try to repair. So
So yeah.
yes.
So this one have to be.
Yes, yes, yes.
in the water, and that one in the star.
Yes,
Yeah, it's, you can see the civil twilight appear now, and looks like clear stars.
I understand very well.
Okay.
Magnifique.
Next
Tomorrow I take a boat and I go to India. You know?
Yes. Very good, huh?
Next morning, to discover more about the ancient science of navigation, Jean-Pierre visits the archives of the Ministry of Heritage and Culture. Here in this high-security vault, rare and valuable works are stored. Nazar al-Busaidi, a specialist in manuscripts, brings out precious originals dating back 400 years.
Mr. Jean-Pierre.
This manuscript is a reference work for the science of navigation. It was used by Omanis for a very long time to find their way.
Nazar shows Jean-Pierre a beautiful handwritten book with parts written by Ibn al-Majid. Born in 1421 on what was then the Omani coast, Ibn al-Majid wrote many books on the principles of navigation, years in advance of European knowledge. He wrote of the location of ports from East Africa to Indonesia, India and China, as well as lunar and star positions.
الأرض طبعا وهذه بقية الكواكب. الزهرة، عطارد، القمر، عطارد، الزهرة.
الزهرة أيوة الزهرة.
محمد بن ماجد كتب النونية اسم.
Ibn Majid wrote this book in the form of a dissertation in which he explained different maritime routes, like those which lead from Oman to East Africa and from East Africa to India.
أو من شرق أفريقيا إلى الهند وعمان وهكذا. هذه ثلاث.
He links the two continents.
يربط بين قارتين.
He tries to explain to Omanis the navigation routes in a way that's easy to understand.
هذه الطرق وبأسلوب جدا بسيط يحفظه الكل.
Ibn Majid's books are written in both prose and poetry.
وإن يكن منازل ثلاثة مقيمة أيامها ثلاثة بغير باب في الصباح والمساء والنون المحيات والغيم يعني والبحر زحرورا.
Through the rhythm and rhyme of these poems, Rawi reciters could recall vital navigational information.
من أرضك لكوت معا دابلي وجوزرات مع الديول ثم هراميز مع الأطواخ فافعل بصنع خالقي يا صاحي إلى السواحل ونواحي القمر إلى سفالة استمع وحر.
Jean-Pierre wants to discover what kind of trade was going on 2,000 years ago. To find the answers, he travels 1,400 kilometers south to Dhofar province, to the land of frankincense. He visits Sumhuram, one of the ancient harbours that Arab navigators would have known well. The site at Korori, now on UNESCO's World Heritage List, dates from the 3rd century BC. The settlement once housed one of the palaces of the Queen of Sheba. The break in the coastline provided an entrance to the lagoon which once came to the foot of the town. Artifacts found here prove trade existed on the site from pre-Islamic times. Items from India, Egypt and the Mediterranean show that by the 1st century AD, Sumhuram was a major centre for long-distance sea trade. A piece of plasterwork found here with an extraordinary graffito of a two-masted ship, possibly Indian, also highlights the maritime network.
So it filled from the upper part of the structure.
But as Omani archaeologist Saeed Al-Mashni tells Jean-Pierre, luck plays a part in preserving history.
During the excavation, I found that kind of plaster. So I look at it. To me, it was just a plaster. So I threw it away That time, there was a professor, he's a Russian, Professor Alexander Sidov. So I brought it to him. He brushed it, and then he said, come on, Said, look. So there was that.
Et il y avait un dessin.
Yeah, the drawing, yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Luck. Very great
Yeah,
luck. Very great luck.
And the history of the site, it's based on what kind of trade?
Actually, it's the main purpose is for the frankincense, to export frankincense outside.
Donc, oui.
It goes to the other countries like China, India, and also Egypt. Thousands of tons in the temples. We have an example here.
Yes.
They have their tools, so they start cutting it gather here.
Yes.
So they leave it until dry, so it become frankincense.
D'accord.
Sumharam grew wealthy from the lucrative trade in frankincense, but by the 5th century AD, the harbour entrance had silted up, and Sumharam was abandoned. Just along the coast is Al Balid, another of the great ancient ports of Oman. This huge UNESCO World Heritage Site covers 640,000 square metres. It's been inhabited since the 4th century BC, but flourished during the 13th century AD. The importance of the town is demonstrated by its great mosque with 144 octagonal pillars.
Tempest, hein? Tsunami.
Its wealth was generated by its harbour.
Used to export, according to the historian references like Ibn Kathir, said about 5,000 horses used to be exported from here every year.
Ah oui, okay.
And each one cost 50 golden coins, each one.
Yes, each one, yes.
And from there, you can imagine how much money they get per year. And this shows, actually, from the construction point of view, you can see that the town is very wealthy. This is the main breakwater here, and you see these huge stones here.
What is the reason of the holes?
The holes is they use them for bridges. They put big sticks. We found sticks still there, big columns, wooden columns, and then they build a kind of platform or bridge.
Yes.
For the animals to cross.
Yes.
To the small dhows.
And it's long.
It's long. It's more than 25 meters.
Ah oui.
Yes, it's all continuing because last year in the monsoon season we found 5 pieces inside the sea. Yes, a lot of movement actually.
Where did the boats come from, the trading boats?
Ships comes from India,
L'Inde. Yeah,
China,
d'accord.
and Africa.
Africa, okay.
Africa, yeah.
D'accord.
Also from Iran, from Persian land, from Iraq, but also there is also from Europe.
Yes.
Also from Marco Polo, also
from
the other side of the West, yes. From the other side. And there is a lot of goods flooding here. And as we are located directly on the sea, the old generations, they thought about what is beyond the sea, beyond the oceans. They are thinking how to cross and how to communicate with the nations beyond the seas.
Okay.
Because they are all the inhabited big areas is located on the seaside, like Dhofar, like Suhar, like coast of Al-Batna, Matrah, Muscat, and those places. There was a big hectic movement of trade between here and these places.
Okay.
The wealth of the town was fueled by the export of incense and horses. In the site museum, Jean-Pierre gets to see what was received in exchange.
Ali, we know these pieces were found here near Salalah. Where are they from?
Quelles sont leurs origines?
This collection of porcelain, it comes from different places from Southeast Asia. This small one, it is in Vietnam style. Here, the number one, you can see these two porcelain bowls.
Yes.
It is from Ming Dynasty.
Ming
Dynasty? Ming Dynasty,
Okay.
1340, 1640 AD. Yeah, you can see the stamps inside here.
Ah oui. Ah oui. Yes. C'est superbe, hein? Okay. Well, thank you.
And that one is a little bit later on, 17th, 18th century.
Yes.
It's from Southeast Asia. It was
D'accord.
found in Al-Balid.
Al-Balid aussi.
Yeah.
Al-Balid was at its peak in the Islamic period from 800 to 1500 AD. It was just one of a series of ports active, including Sohar, Muscat and Sur. Just 14 kilometers along the coast from Al-Balid is the port of Salalah. Wooden dhows still ply the coast from Somalia, Yemen and East Africa, importing and exporting goods as they have done for centuries. But this is the last generation of such traditional ships. The old quays are now dwarfed by a massive modern container port. In 2012, the harbour handled 7 million tonnes of cargo. Port of Salalah has 2,500 metres of quayside. And the docks cover 87 hectares with a workforce of more than 2,000.
We can now handle 6 million containers a year. These days, around 25 ships a week come into port. Every week.
What made the ancient ports along this coast successful makes this one successful too. It's all about location, location, location.
En fait, les routes maritimes d'origine...
The old maritime routes we've seen, Al-Balid, those trade routes, are they still the same?
Yes, they are. The trade between Asia and Europe hasn't changed that much. What's important here is that we're close to East Africa, we're close to India, and we're right in the center of the Middle East. We're between China, Europe, and the Americas too.
Ah oui, effectivement, c'est un tout petit détour.
Oui, exactement.
Next stop on Jean-Pierre's journey is the ancient trading port of Sur. It is one of the picturesque centres of traditional boat building in Oman. Here, old traditions live on. And so do a few of the sailors who remember when Sur was the hub of a trading network.
بصرة، بحرين، دبي، هذا
Par là, d'accord.
في الهند،
هند، يمن.
أفريقيا،
نعم.
هذا المكان. الهند هذا المكان، بومباي، منغرور، كاليكوت، كاريلا، مني، باكستان، مني.
Captain Ali Al-Alawi, now 74, was skipper on one of the last dhows to trade under sail. Indoors, the captain explains how they used to navigate.
I'd look through this instrument for 5 or 10 minutes.
And
then you wait until the sun starts to go down.
شنو هذا؟
هذه السنة هذه السفينة.
This drawing with the boat is to show in a cartoon way how to find the route.
إذا كانت الشمس.
If the angle of the sun is to the north of the line of latitude, then the boat's on course.
تعرف خط الاستواء؟ خط الاستواء هين الخارطة.
Where's the chart?
Dans quel sens?
Muscat at the top or at the bottom?
Voilà, Muscat.
There, Muscat.
خلي مسقط أنت لا تخليني غرفة.
Muscat أوني.
Yeah, Muscat down.
هذا شوف هذا خط الاستواء.
Nasser, was he a good teacher?
نعم هذا معلم.
Oh, yes. He's a good teacher. He learned from his ancestors from generation to generation for 250 years. All the family. We started working in boats 250 years ago, and we never stopped. For 250 years this knowledge was passed on, and the boats. We've always had cargo boats, but now we've got tourist boats. On the journey to Basra, there's a part of the journey where there's no wind. So what do? You just have to row part of the journey. Whenever you went to Basra, there was no wind. So it was difficult to turn, but we always found a way. We had another little rowing boat, which would have to tow us.
Sheikh Ali,
Sheikh Ali, I'd like to thank you most sincerely for the science which you shared with us.
The next morning, Jean-Pierre heads down to the boatyards in Sour. There's a surprise meeting with new friends.
Comment tu vas?
Oh, there you are. This is good news.
Ça, c'est une bonne nouvelle.
How are you doing? How are you? See you again.
The boat builders from Cantab are preparing a traditional fishing boat for sea. She's almost 100 years old, and her lines are recognizable from the drawings of Admiral Paris.
This is the button. This is a modern button, basically. Although she's 93 years old, she's a very old button. But unlike the one that your ancestor drew, which is completely sewn, this one is nailed, completely nailed. This boat actually has been restored last year and will be sent to Paris. Well, she will be the center place for the opening display, for the opening ceremony.
It's going to Paris?
Yes.
For the exhibition?
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yes.
And where will it be?
It will be placed in the central fountain, basically, right in front of the Eiffel Tower.
In the fountain?
Yes, in the water. She will be sailing in Paris.
That'll be a wonderful image for the Maritime Museum because that will attract a crowd, perhaps.
D'accord, Inch'Allah. Parfait.
And today I can see people on board. You're going out to sea?
Yes, I figured if you would like, we can go for a little sail if you're interested.
Ah, avec grand plaisir. Avec grand plaisir.
Jombian, welcome on board.
Well,
this is the crew, the most experienced guys who've been sailing in Jewel of Muscat.
Jewel of Muscat.
Yes.
And this is Jewel of Sour.
This is Jewel of Sour, that's it. And inshallah, again, if your great uncle who been sailing before, and this is good you sail with us and see how the traditional boat here in Oman sailing.
Je suis très heureux d'être à bord. Happy to be on board.
ساجد اسحب الحبل. ايه يا مسو. يا معين. ايه يا مسو. شوي يا معين. ايه يا عوادي. شراع فوق. ايه يا معين. ايه يا معين. فهد. بعدك. اوكي very good. واو. أريك بعدين شوف الشراب فوق ماسك الثروت.
For Jean-Pierre, it's a sailing lesson from a master.
Jean-Pierre, come beside my friend.
Yes.
What you do, you just pull a little bit to and look at the wind where it's come from. If you want to go to the right, just little touch because very sensitive.
Yes.
You want to go more and just always see to the wind, breeze, where it's come from. Little, very good. See, it's worked very good. And always look at the breeze. See the breeze there? So you know it's coming from the port bow. So you always, before it's coming the breeze, you see, so you can feel the wind now. Yes?
Okay.
You can feel the boat is going faster. So go to the starboard a little bit. Shukran. Good. Pull starboard, so let's the boat. Little slack, little pull, little slacks, always. شوف, sailing very nicely.
Yes.
And can go very fast as well with the little wind, 5 knots, 6 knots. It's very good the boat doing almost half speed of the wind. And you can see it's going very close to the wind, maybe 30 degrees, 25 degrees.
Yes.
It's very good. And the shape, see the shape of the sail.
C'est monté au près.
It is close to the wind.
Il est au maximum. Comment ça se fait qu'il soit au maximum que ça? Et au max.
To stand by, everybody in position, please, guys.
On an old boat like this, changing direction is a challenge.
لا جهدي خلي قدام قلت. Very good, Khan. Okay. بس بطل. Just moving a little bit. Well done, Niyaz, well done. Ali, sir.
Il avait quand même une connaissance de la...
The Admiral certainly had a knowledge of how boats sailed because he wrote about it. So perhaps he went sailing like this.
Easily.
Il a peut-être pratiqué ce genre de sport.
والله ساعدوني غرقت. Very good. You're doing good. ممتاز. Bravo.
Thank you. Ce type de bateau, il les a tous.
These kind of boats, he noted them all, so he knew them in great detail, down to the... No, not to the last nail. The boats weren't nailed then. They were simply sewn.
Cousu. Voilà. Il a pris un exemple. Alors, je sais pas s'il y avait vraiment des plans.
I don't know if they had plans then, but he drew some and kept them, and that's why a boat like this exists and is sailing today. And it's thanks to him that it'll be seen in Paris.
Et c'est grâce à lui qu'on va en voir à Paris à partir du mois de septembre. C'est très émouvant.
It's very moving.
Yes, close. Very close, yes.
Jean-Pierre's voyage of discovery is almost complete. He returns to Muscat for a look at what the future holds for Oman and the sea. Captain Salah wants to show him how Oman is encouraging the next generation. Oman Sail runs a sail racing team where Omani men and women compete in the most demanding international events. Salah focuses on Oman's sailing schools, which let youngsters try sailing for the first time. The ultimate goal, an Olympic sailing medal for Oman. On the way, building skills and confidence in young people.
It's mixed boys and girls, and they're doing a brilliant job, really. Going, have fun, sailing, understand with the sea, sailing the boat itself, making the decision in this age. And this is brilliant. It's part of the heritage of the country itself. And Omani kids all over, the sea, it's like a blood inside the body. So there is brilliant links between the past and now, and it's going forever, inshallah.
Oh yes, we really enjoyed it. This is the first time. I can't wait to go back.
حبيت
All my family goes sailing. I can't wait to learn quickly. Then I can go with them.
Jean-Pierre's voyage draws to a close. He's been on a memorable personal journey. He's seen for himself how his ancestors' work has helped preserve and revive Oman's proud maritime heritage.
Going out in the kind of boat that Admiral Paris might well have sailed in, well, I'm saying to myself, I have something under my feet which is pretty much unique. And I must say I feel truly honoured.
And how the skills of ancient navigators made it possible for Omani sailors to voyage far and wide, sailing along a vast trading network.
It's the beginning of our maritime routes today. The maritime trade routes aren't far from here today. We still use the same routes.
Journeying to ancient ports, where ruins and relics bear witness to the trade that went on there. On Jean-Pierre's last evening in Oman, a final visit to Kantab. Captain Salah has one more surprise. In the best traditions of Omani hospitality, Salah's brother brings his dance troupe to bid Jean-Pierre farewell. Woven into the performance, signs of Oman's maritime tradition, dances about sailing and rowing. Omani's love of the sea is a romance reaching back 5,000 years. Handed down from father to son through a powerful oral tradition. In the rhythms of mast-raising chants, in the patterns of the stars, on the whisper of the wind. This is the tale of Oman and the sea.